a verdict that's coming from the Allahabad High Court that's really led to a huge debate on consent. Did she invite trouble? That's exactly what Allahabad High Court seems to have suggested while granting bail to a man accused of rape, triggering outrage from activists and legal experts who say the order dangerously blurs the line of consent. The case dates back to December 2024 when a postgraduate student accused a man of raping her after a night out in Delhi. The defense claims that it was a consensual act, that she was willingly accompanying him. She accompanied him all the way to his house. They decided to chill together and consume alcohol at his home after they met at a restaurant where they were friends together, and then they decided to leave together and go back to his place. They were both drunk. So the boy says it was consensual while the girl calls this rape. In granting bail, the court acknowledged that both parties were adults and the survivor, a postgraduate student, he very explicitly underscores, is capable of making her own decisions. She's an adult, seemingly educated. That's what he suggests, that she's educated, she's adult, she can make her own choice. So she invited it. If she went to his house, she may have invited it. Now, it's Justice Sanjay Kumar Singh's remarks that has stirred up a storm here. He said, and I quote exactly his words here, even if the allegation of the victim is accepted as true, then it can also be concluded that she herself invited trouble and was also responsible for the same. The court has also cited the medical report here, which noted a torn hymen, but said the doctor could not really confirm sexual assault in this case. Critics argue that the judge's language not only places blame on the survivor, but dangerously dilutes the legal understanding of consent, and that being intoxicated does not really equal to giving consent. Basically, just because you're drunk, it doesn't mean you agree to what's happening. And going to someone's home, most importantly, is not an invitation to sex. Well, this is a backlash that the judge has received for his verdict. Now, the man has been let off on bail. This case certainly continues. We're going to see if that girl comes back to fight or appeal in the higher court. But yes, the accused has the right, he definitely has the right to defend himself. Courts also must weigh evidence quite carefully, but should a woman's education level or alcohol intake be really used to justify or explain why and what happened to her? Was it rape or not? Let me bring in our guest here who could give us a little more perspective. Nisha Nujumuddin, who's with us. She's an activist. And we also have Anuja Petia, who's an advocate on record, Supreme Court of India. Thanks very much. Anuja, if I could start with you. You know, we're looking at clarity being blurred. Both parties here were intoxicated. And we know when both parties are intoxicated, the waters get murkier. But mutual impairment doesn't erase responsibility. It, of course, demands greater sensitivity to boundaries. Now, this question here about the judge itself saying that the girl invited it. Of course, that needs to be condemned. But what is the serious legal implication here? I mean, what is the buzz around the legal circles on this verdict? Shifting the blame entirely on the girl. That's what it seems to me.
Yeah, so see, there are a lot of aspects to it. First of all, courts have to be very clinical in applying law. This is not a public discussion, or this is not a discussion we are having in a drawing room where people can have different, moral opinions on what has happened. So a judge has to be very clinical on about applying law, and you cannot pass moral decisions, particularly when you're passing an order in bail, which is very, very preliminary. Nothing has come out yet. Evidence has to be investigated, etc. So blaming the survivor is sending out a really wrong message, because we all know that it's anyways very difficult for women, particularly in India, to come out and complain about sexual offenses, because this is exactly what happens. This is what happens at this level of police thanas, stations. We know how sensitive police is to issues like these, but when something like this comes from a high court, it is very discouraging. So my first take on this is that there shouldn't be a moral judgment. There shouldn't be any moral remarks at all when a judge is granting bail. There are, legally speaking, there are three factors which have to be considered while granting bail. Will he tamper with evidence? Will he influence witnesses? Will he abscond? That's all a judge needs to consider, which I don't see that in this particular order, or at least what's been reported of it. Secondly, survivors have to be encouraged. You can't pass judgments like these right at the beginning when the trial hasn't even properly started, right? And Supreme Court is very, very clear. The law is in fact very clear that consent cannot be presumed from proximity, right? So if I choose to visit someone's house, or I choose to maintain contact with him, that does not dilute my bodily autonomy at all. The question is whether the consent was unequivocal or not. It's as simple as that. There's nothing complicated about it.
Now, when
I
there's
don't
lack of
see any
evidence,
discussion.
then just to ask you, when there's lack of evidence, and as we know very clearly here, legally and
Okay, so if
ethically, intoxication complicates consent. There's a lot of suspicion itself whether the parties have capacity to say yes or no at all. So the
right,
line of
but
consent is blurred.
in
But how does
cases of
the court look at it when there
okay,
is
so
alcohol
in
involved?
cases of rape, the burden of proof is reversed. So in criminal law, typically you are innocent until you're proven guilty, but that's not how it works in rape, right? So so the burden of proof is reversed. It's for him to show that he did not do what has been alleged. And intoxication does not dilute consent. He has a particular version, she has a particular version. At the stage of bail, there is not enough evidence to conclude anything. So for him to even remark that she has invited it is very, very problematic. How does he know that she has invited it if there is no evidence? Right?
Correct.
So these are questions which should be left open to the investigating agencies, to the police, for them to do their job. But when you say something like that, you're already reinforcing patriarchy, you're already reinforcing a bias. That if you're a woman and you've gone out at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever, and something like this happens, it's primarily because you have gone out. So the state is not responsible for your protection. You are responsible for it because you went out at that time. That is not what 376 says, and that is not what the law on bail says at all. So why is that discussion even happening in the bail order?
You know, Nisha, when judgments like this come, it almost reinforces taboo. And exactly what we fight against, you have judges reinforcing it. It's embarrassing that you have a judge saying it's the woman's fault. Because, like our advocate here on the panel said, how does a judge know what happened inside closed doors? Just because the girl was intoxicated does not mean she was giving out an invitation for sex. It could have been against her wishes inside closed doors. But the lack of evidence here is what makes it murky. The doctors say that there's no evidence of sexual assault, though hymen was broken, yes. Sexual assault, we don't know. That's what the doctors say. So how would you look at this case as an activist itself?
No, see, weeks after another incident from the again Allahabad High Court, where grabbing the breast or putting the pajama down, it is not an issue. It is not acting to rape. We can see another case that is coming up now in this particular issue where I mean, I would like to say that, see, it's a victim blaming narrative. I would say the statement that the Allahabad High Court has passed that the victim invited trouble. This is kind of reinforcing a kind of a very harmful stereotype, and it discourages the survivor from reporting sexual assault. It also at the same time shifting the focus from the accused action to the victim behavior, which is again regressive, which cannot be accepted. So what are we doing to society? What are we trying to show up? Okay, these are very normal. Or just because you're drunk doesn't mean that a woman can be sexually assaulted, she can be raped, she can be done whatever she wants without her consent. This is absolutely not acceptable, even 0.1%. And now if you see, there is something called as, they said, because she's drunk, she herself invited trouble. It is called as misinterpretation of consent again. See, the reasoning might, kind of blur the legal distinction between consent and coercion. It's a kind of force, I would say, because there is no, when you do a kind of sexual activity, nobody is going to fix or install a camera right under your bedroom and do all this. This is a very common sense kind of thing, right? So this is
Yeah.
kind of setting a very, how do I say, a dangerous precedent where the victim behavior is over scrutinized here and trying to shame the victim. Now, from the judge's point of view, from the Allahabad High Court point of view, they are kind of again, I would say that, there is a judicial discretion where the courts have the discretion to evaluate each and every cases, when they're deciding or when they're making a decisions on the bail and all, right? And the court might have considered certain inconsistencies because of lack of strong evidences or the FIR or whatever. That could be one thing. And second thing could be, pre-assumption of innocence, which means that granting bail to the accused, again, it is supporting the legal principle. in such a way that the accused is presumed to be innocent and he's not found to be guilty, because you have to found him guilty, right? For that, again, the victim has to fight for it. But meanwhile, what are we doing? The society itself, even the court itself, is trying to
Yeah,
shut the
reinforcing
mouth of the
stereotypes
victim.
itself.
That is
Absolutely,
absolutely
Nisha.
bullshit.
You know, as we're short on
Yeah.
time, here. I apologize. A quick take from Anubha. In the lack of evidence, when there's no trace of sexual assault, how does this case proceed, Anubha? Quick word.
So
Anuja,
I
beg
don't
your
agree
pardon.
that so I don't agree that there's no evidence of sexual assault. See, there's a difference. We are only at the stage of bail here. There is no appreciation of evidence which has to be done at this stage. So, like I said, that this discussion shouldn't have happened. Secondly, again, I haven't seen the certified copy of the judgment, but from what I've read, it appears that there is medical evidence of the hymen being torn. So you cannot rule out medical evidence completely. And very, very importantly, in rape jurisprudence, it is very well established that when a prosecutrix gives a statement, you're supposed to believe on it and you're supposed to believe it's credible. It is for the defense to punch holes in it. So this whole take where we are questioning her and we are already passing comments, we as in the High Court is already passing comments, treating her more like a suspect rather than a survivor,
Absolutely.
is I think
You know,
it's prejudicial to the entire trial.
Anuja and Nisha, really appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us.